discussion of intellectual concepts and issues podcast with your hosts, Augie, Blake, Charlie, and Shelby. Our goal here is to evoke emotion that can motivate you and the rest of society to change through the high moral standings that we all strive for. Furthermore, we provide an intellectual base in which we can expand on ideas that we struggle with in this modern age. So today, we're going to discuss something that is certainly a first world problem that can easily be changed. But unfortunately, the media sets up an expectation to achieve absolute wealth.
Today, we're talking about American greed and people living outside of their means in society. Now, most people don't really understand the seriousness of this issue. Greed is one of the biggest problems with the American society. Every day, people buy things they can't afford, and it severely affects the economy in this country. When someone buys something they can't afford, it puts pressure on banks and the person who spends the money they don't have. Eventually, they lose everything they have because of bankruptcy and overspending. It's a very serious problem. How do you have anything to say on this?
Well, I think we live in a society where greed and irresponsible spending is actually fostered through the media. I think that the pop culture actually inspires people to spend money that they don't have.
How are consumers expected to change when the companies are advertising and manipulating society into buying these mortgages and basically trying to live outside their means?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's also a matter of kind of disguising what the cost actually is. People say low prices here, sale, everything like that, but actually it's around the same cost as it actually was. And you're not really making money. It's just encouraging you to spend something you don't have. Like you can't afford to not buy it because you're losing money if you don't.
It's spending more. They want you to get, instead of just this one shirt or, a new car, they want you to get 20 shirts or 2 new cars, or a better car, something nicer.
Yeah.
They always want you to upgrade and get better, even if you can't afford to do it.
Yeah, they'd rather make less money than the full price rather than no money at all. That's why they can afford to put on these sales. Because they're making money in.
Yeah, I think if you just overload people with numbers, I don't think it's very hard to manipulate people into buying what they can't afford.
At an individual level, I think there's also a lack of responsibility in the public as we're seeing in the future and the present because of this new accessibility to credit cards and money that you don't have.
Yeah.
People don't understand what it is to live within their means, and it's a big problem in society.
Yeah, like if you think about, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, people would, they'd get small houses, small lots, they wouldn't get anything real nice, They really try to make sure that they live within their means, but maybe get little upgrades, kind of, in a long time. So they get something, nice this year, and then wait until next year, they'll get a little something nice.
I think Mental Floss did a study on credit cards, paying with credit cards versus paying with cash, and what they found was people paying with credit cards spent more money, and it's because people paying with cash can actually see their money go away. And
Exactly, it's tangibility.
Yeah, I'm not proposing that we buy everything with cash. We need to be more vigilant, like what you and everyone else is sort of talking about. So.
Yeah, and there's a lot of backlashes that have come from this. Companies now are starting to say that they don't accept credit cards because they don't know if that they can accept that credit card because they don't know if you have any money left. You might have spent that all money and you're just running on debt right now. Shelby?
Yeah. And it's definitely like a 50-50 thing where corporations are they're advertising all this stuff that you can buy, it's cheaper, but it's, they're trying to trick you into buying it. But it's also each individual's decision to buy it, and it's their fault if they're in debt and they keep spending over in their means.
Yeah.
Like when you get a Starbucks card and you pay for something on the Starbucks card, they'll tell you your balance on the receipt, and I think it's that simple thing that makes it a lot easier to keep track of your money. And I'm not sure how you translate that to like a credit card where there are much more things going on within that, like you use it to purchase way more. But it's just, it's a recurring issue that people are just lazy and just don't feel
sometimes people will like throw away their receipts too. It's a little slip of paper, often forgotten, but it's actually really important because it shows it's tracking you, how you're doing spending, and you can, I mean, if you use your receipts, you can easily like cut back on your spending because you know
How much you
you know your limits, you
Yeah.
know where you're spending it. All right, everyone, that's all the time we have for now.